Day in the life of an English teacher in Japan.
Day in the life of
First
an
thing in
English
the morning,
teacher in
I
Japan.
face off.
Day in the life
of an English teacher in
Day
Japan.
in the life of an
Day
English teacher.
Day in the life of an English
teacher.
So, I quit. To be totally honest, I've always been kind of scared to film this video because after a year of filming my life as an English teacher and going massively viral for that, I felt like no one would understand why I'd leave that life behind. And I get messages every single day, probably thousands in the past 2 years, asking how to get the exact job that I had and live the life that I live. But honestly, I get why, because I also wanted it for the longest time. And as a caveat, this isn't meant to be some kind of expose discouraging people from moving to Japan or becoming English teachers. I don't think anything could have changed my mind before I came here, but I think telling the full truth outside of these 30-second vlog videos might help people understand why I made the decision I made. Finally, one of the most famous and also kind of annoying phrases here in the English teaching community is ESID. Every situation is different. This means my experience is not the be-all end-all, but it is my experience as an English teacher and ultimately why I left my dream job. First things first, let's pull back the curtain. These vlogs were from over a year ago, some of them like 2 years ago now, hence the mask, hence the old meme references, and also why I'm able to talk about it more freely now. So how did we do it? We being me and Ben. So let's start with me. I came here through the JET program, which is supposed to be the best way to come to Japan and teach English. So basically how that works is the Japanese government places you in a random town somewhere in Japan, and you become an assistant language teacher to a native Japanese teacher in their English classes, with a relatively high salary compared to most other English teaching jobs in Japan. But all the details, the school, the community, the location, the exact details of your contract aren't revealed to you, or at least to me, until you get there pretty much. So you're kind of just rolling the die, hoping that you get a good life and you luck out on some of these things. But as you might be able to guess, spoilers, I didn't get a lot of good luck. Okay, but then how did Ben do it? Well, let's ask him. Come on.
So I was placed as an alternate on the JET program, which basically means I wasn't picked to teach, but I would be a backup if someone else quits. And in case no one else did quit, we wanted to be sure that I would still be able to come. So I applied for the freeloader visa. Sorry, the dependent visa. And the plan was for me to start looking for jobs once I got there. See ya!
So why did I personally do it, uprooting my and Ben's life for a life here? Well, because like many of you, I also grew up watching J-vloggers. What's good, Chris Broad? And I took a trip here in 2019 and absolutely fell in love with it. I took Japanese language and culture courses at my university, and by the time I graduated, I was just a little bit sick and tired of the Midwest and wanted something polar opposite. So when JET came a-callin', I was in. There was no question. And I was lucky enough that I found an amazing partner in Ben, who came with me through all the crazy stuff we were about to endure. And it was about to get crazy, which is why we're thankful for today's sponsor, BetterHelp. Before they ever approached us to be a sponsor, we actually use BetterHelp services because it's a resource we can use while we're abroad, and we found a great therapist who aligned with our needs.
Whether it be family issues, trauma, or just needing to vent to someone who can give good advice, therapy is a super powerful tool to give you perspective on life. You probably already know that BetterHelp is an online therapy platform that millions of people use. We especially recommend it if you have a busy life, if you live abroad, or if where you live doesn't have as many mental health resources. And you can choose to do therapy whichever way works for you, whether that's messaging, calls, or video. Also, if your therapist isn't right for you, then it's really easy to get matched with someone new to find the right fit. If you're interested, it's an easy process of using the link in our description, answering a few questions, and getting a quick message from a therapist matched to your needs. It took us like 5 minutes to get signed up, and we were matched with a therapist the next day. So it's super convenient and very quick.
So if you'd like somebody to work with you on your mental health, or you just want to support us, then click the link in our description and take the next step on your mental health journey today. So the beginning of the story is kind of traumatic, at least for me it was. So if you like a messy story, then here you go. We'll start at the train station where I was supposed to be meeting my new boss, and I noticed very quickly that he was less than enthusiastic and honestly probably super overworked, whereas all the people around me were being met by their coordinators with open arms, having these great conversations about how wonderful their life was about to be. For us, it very much felt like we were just really being shuttled around and put up with. And trying to make small talk about our new home was met with pretty jaded responses about how dull island life was. So let me recreate the conversation that we had. You guys like movies? Yeah, we like movies. Yeah, we don't have any movie theaters around here. Oh, okay. You guys like concerts? Yeah, we like concerts. Yeah, we don't have concerts. Oh, you guys like partying? I guess so. Yeah, nobody ever gets together around here. So we hopped in my boss's car and we drove further and further away from civilization across a bridge that symbolized a little bit too closely moving away from the life that we had pictured in Japan, this fun, energetic lifestyle. Because that's where we were placed, by the way, an island far away from any of the big cities in Japan. But it only got worse when we got there. We pulled up on our new apartment absolutely in shambles, covered in cat hair and piss and smelling like mold and mysterious stains on the walls, broken furniture, and just like a mountain of trash.
I'm the trash man. I come out, I throw trash all over the ring.
As background, in the JET program, you typically inherit your position and all that comes with it from a previous teacher. That means their job, their apartment, their responsibilities, and their messes all become yours. And unfortunately, mine did not set me up for success. We walked in on her throwing away loads of garbage and broken glass the very same day that we were supposed to be moving in. Talk about procrastination. At that point, the only question I had was, damn, bitch, you live like this? They were stressed, we were stressed, but it only got worse. See, we were really encouraged by the program to trust our predecessor before we had even met them and take their hand-me-downs or even buy stuff from them like our cars, so we did. Now that might seem just straight up foolish to some of you, but you have to understand we weren't exactly given many resources to buy a car on our own on this island, nor would we have known anything about how to do it. But we were ever so swiftly informed by one of the local car guys that we met that she had scammed us out of about $500 to $1,000 on this car that was actually worth nearly nothing. The car was also about 10 years older than my predecessor said it was, which also brought down the value. Oh, and that was also full of cat hair and pee. Did I mention I'm allergic? Like super allergic? Yeah. And in our Midwestern spirit, we had used some of our precious luggage space to bring this big old bottle of ranch to her because that's the one thing she wanted from back home. Needless to say, that never made it to her. You may take our dignity, but you won't take our ranch. I think just the cherry on top was my predecessor was live tweeting about us, even though we only met once just to say hello, because she heard we were quite upset about getting scammed. And she said she wanted to send a bunch of crows to poop on the car to punish us for...
What a weird fucking thing to say.
Yeah. But this is part of the gamble you take with an English teaching program like this. I mean, I was reading group chat messages from other people who were already having big potluck dinners with everybody around them and, I don't know, singing like Kumbaya with their neighbors. And honestly, good for them. Like, that was all I ever wanted, but that was not us. As you may be able to tell, our first impression was not good, and having just moved there, we didn't really have a community to fall back on for any of these problems. So with those two L's right in front of us, we hunkered down for a night full of jet lag, tears, and exhaustion in an apartment that was still full of trash that we would now have to deal with ourselves. So only a couple days after touching down, I was now expected to show up to school loaded up with caffeine, if that's what it took, and desk warm through summer break until school started. Oh yeah, in Japan, teachers don't often get summer break off, so the whole point of being a teacher is like half as appealing here. But because I was stuck at work most of the day, let me turn it over to Ben to talk about the island that we were quickly learning so very much about. Tap me out.
Hello, everyone. Awajishima is inarguably a beautiful island. There is a lot of amazing nature and history, from the beautiful Samoto Castle to the iconic Naruto whirlpools. Yes, that Naruto. The people are gracious, funny, and loving, and the vibe can honestly be amazing if you get accustomed to it. However, imagine living somewhere where the signage, the streets, the menus at restaurants, the instructions on the toaster that tried to electrocute you are all in a foreign language. The officials truly did not think about where they were placing people based on their language abilities whatsoever. Now, this might seem obvious. Of course it's all in Japanese. It's in Japan. But the thing is, other boards of education actually do provide resources for the Jets that are coming in. We had read a ton of stories online about how Jets are just living their dream life. Like, it's just so Studio Ghibli. My board of education was so nice and helped me so much. They set up my apartment for me. Frankly, I don't feel like I lived a life before I came to Japan. I hate all the other countries. We were in a particularly rural place with no guidance on who to talk to, how to make friends, where to go, how to sign up for subscriptions, how to get involved in social activities, or weekly groups or anything. The only way to get off the island was a bridge on either side that cost like $20 to go either way, which is a lot on an ALT salary. And worst of all, we weren't in one of the connected areas of the island, so we were physically as well as socially isolated. So we didn't have the resources that we were relying on her board of education for, and the geography of the island made it pretty difficult to adapt to life there. Now, we thought back at this moment to the term isid. Every situation is different. But we felt at this point like we just kind of got one of the bad ones. So she was always pretty good at Japanese, but I didn't have enough time to study before jumping the boat and coming here. And socially, probably the worst part was the fact that when we finally met other people on the island, we were immediately informed that the social environment was very, very cliquey. Every time we met someone new came a list of gripes and drama about them. There was like a D&D group, there was a cat girls group, and there were some climbing people. And I love cats and D&D, but we never really got invited. It seems like they weren't really keen on new people joining. And I want to stress, most of these people seem super nice, but the climate just wasn't super welcoming overall. So we ended up going climbing to get our social batteries filled. Shout out to Mir. We love you so much. You are just a sweetheart. And honestly, there was so much drama from before we arrived that we don't even know the full capacity. But suffice it to say, the mess that Megan's predecessor left us made it so that we also weren't sure who to trust. Now, at my lowest, I found myself in a bar, embarrassingly speaking the worst Japanese you've ever heard to try to make friends, when I ran into the sweetest Japanese DJ to exist. And he'd become a great friend and a lifesaver, honestly. He invited me to his studio and introduced me to his friends, and we ended up making a couple songs for my music project Benji. And he was truly a light in the darkness for me, because as you can tell, Megan and I were really struggling to adapt to life there. Between the loneliness, the dirty apartment, the car troubles, we had a lot on our plate. So I'll forever be thankful to him and his band MMS. We'll link that below if you want to listen. During this time, I started to scour the internet for jobs to see if there was a way out of this mess. And eventually, I met a businessman online who offered me a part-time position at one of his companies. Turns out LinkedIn actually can be useful and isn't just a cringe site for people to brag about how rich their parents are. This way, I could start a new season and start working remotely on the island. Back to Megan. Megan, it's your part!
All right, so I want to talk about one of the hardest parts of everyday life in Japan. It's gotta be Japanese bureaucracy. There was this expectation that we fully know and follow these rules that we had never grown up with without really ever getting to fit in and reap the benefits of knowing these rules. And what I mean by that was there always seemed to be issues with our very presence here, like our existence was disrupting the flow of things. Like, I distinctly remember going to the bank and being told I might not be able to make an account because my name was too long to fit in the amount of blanks that they had. And really, every single time we had to go somewhere and do paperwork, it felt like we were such an anomaly. There were generations of English teachers coming through these offices, enough that this wasn't in any way a new phenomenon that they needed to deal with. It is a pretty constant reminder, and when you're in an old school part of the countryside, it gets pretty exhausting. Sorry if it sounds like I'm complaining a lot, but you know how the story goes. I mean, I did quit after all. But the good news is I did enjoy my work. Some jets get 5 or more schools, ones that can be hours away, so I'd like to say that I rolled high on that one. Like I said, before I came, I didn't know anything about the school I'd be teaching at, but I was pleasantly surprised that I was only teaching at one school that was fairly close to where I lived. My students were engaged and funny. The staff didn't speak too much English outside of the designated English teachers, but they were kind. The school was pristine, and the job was easy. So I could really see why people would want to stay in this job for years and years. The salary is pretty low compared to the US. You're making about $2,000 a month before taxes, but the cost of living was also pretty low, so it wasn't a bad setup. Also, at my job in particular, there was a lot of downtime, so I could spend some of my time doing stuff like improving my Japanese, or more importantly to me, was enjoying my hobby of filming my life in Japan. And to be super honest, we didn't think anything serious would come from it. It was kind of just a way to keep friends and family back home updated on our lives in Japan, and it brought Ben and I together while we edited them, so we certainly didn't expect this, but here we are. As far as what life would look like after Jet, I quickly found out there's one problem endemic to this sort of occupation, which is not being able to find a career after you finish it. You see, you can't stay in Jet forever. In fact, the longest you can stay is up to 5 years. And your true job title is assistant language teacher, which most employers have no idea what that means or what skills that entails. So they don't know what to do with you. So either you have to be really good at selling yourself or be able to get some skills in your downtime that you can use to market and find a new job. Some people learn to code or learn Japanese to become an interpreter, but oddly enough, my hobby of filming goofy little videos was starting to be seen as a legit skill by employers. By this point, we had been on the island for nearly a year, and even though things were a lot better than they were in the beginning, we still knew we weren't as happy as we could be. And sure enough, after Ben tried sliding into the DMs of enough business owners in Japan, he found one that was willing to bite and got a position at a startup. And being the power couple that we are, we leveraged that connection to get me a job too, which meant we had an out from the island. Our dream of a city life in Japan was still alive, and we didn't want to let it go. But that did mean letting our island go. That meant no more oceanside drives along the highway, no more hiking through the mountains, no nature right in our backyards. And I had to leave my school too, which felt like it came straight out of a Studio Ghibli movie. But we did gain trains, and ultimately that was the biggest push. We love trains. But we're not through the worst yet, because quitting was the ultimate pain and proved to me that this wasn't really the place that I wanted to be. I now understand why some people hire an agency to quit their jobs in Japan, because it honestly felt like some kind of humiliation ritual to leave my position. I will say it's especially hard to leave the JET program because it's almost treated like you're the one in school and you can't leave until school's over. But it was and is a job, and if you're in this situation, then just remember it's a job, and if the job or circumstance isn't filling up your tank, then it's completely fair game to go and find something that will. And I saw the people who were loyal and stayed the full 5 years, and guess what happened at the end of it? They were told that they had to leave their positions, and even if they had built a life on the island, it didn't matter. Their time was up. And after all, my job had proved it wasn't going to go out of its way to make my life easier, so why should I be the one that's ever loyal to it? Some people may disagree with quitting, and that's fine, but I have had enough therapy that I realize I am allowed to have this boundary. But going through the bureaucracy of quitting, sitting down with my principal, my supervisor, everyone and their mothers, not just to explain, but what seemed to be asking for permission to leave? It was a huge cultural difference for my little American brain, because I knew people that wrote their resignation on napkins on their way out and were never bothered again, but that was not going to be tolerated. That is not the Japanese way. I think the hardest part was how invasive it was, requiring me to tell everyone why I was leaving, where I was going, what company I'd be going to, what position I'd be fulfilling, how I'd be moving, where I'd be moving to, everything. They wanted the full story, things that I didn't even know yet. I do now understand why people in Japan stay at jobs that they hate out of fear of quitting, because the emotional toll and guilt that they make you feel is no joke. Again, coming from the land of napkin resignations, it felt like they were interviewing me and assessing whether or not I had a good enough reason to go. But after enough bowing and saying our gomenasais, we finally were able to pack our bags and leave one hell of a guide for the next teacher coming through, leaving them with an apartment that had probably been cleaner than it had ever been in the last 40 years, and we were able to cross over the bridge one final time. We gotta tell them the end. It's the end of the story.
Yep, you're right.
As of today, we still haven't gone back. But to be honest, I think making this video gives us a certain level of closure now that we're where we want to be and we can enjoy all the good parts.
And now I feel like we can make plans to go back and visit and have fun and kind of enjoy the beautiful nature and culture of the island without all the negative stuff.
People might wonder what I do now, and this is
videos.
it. We're doing content creation, and yeah, I feel like I stumbled and fumbled my way and bumbled probably. No, we didn't need on Bumble.
And humbled our way.
We humbled our way into this life, kind of the dream life that I've always wanted, but never thought I would achieve. So, wahoo! 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 Thank you. You guys are the reason that we're here.
Yeah, the people who are liking and commenting and subscribing and stuff like that are the people who are allowing us to continue making content about, you know, Japan and even the world. So thank you guys so much for your support, and we're looking forward to making more long videos. Woohoo! Check our description for bonus content. Woohoo!